You're listening to the Digital Deep Dive, where we tackle the newest trends, strategies, and pain points shaping growth across the digital landscape. From Amazon and D2C to international expansion, join our host and e-commerce leaders across multiple industries for in-depth discussions on how to maximize your brands in the digital arena. Now, here's your host, Aaron Conant.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Digital Deep Dive podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Conant, and excited about the topic today because, as many of you know, I'm talking to 25, 30 brands a week around digital strategy as a whole. And when those same topics pop up over and over again, I think it's worth spending some time just going through, what those topics are. And so one of them that's been coming up over and over again is the metaverse as a whole. I don't think anybody's shocked or surprised at that. It's top of mind for a lot of people right now. A lot of questions being asked by executive teams around, hey, what's going on in this space? How are we prepping for? What do we need to be prepared for? And so this episode here, bringing your brand to the metaverse. And we've got some really good friends, partners, supporters of the network over at Liquid Avatar. And David Lucatch has agreed to kind of jump on today and kind of walk us through overall high level, what should we be thinking about? And so, David, I'll kick it over to you if you want to do kind of a brief intro yourself, Liquid Avatar, and then we can kind of just, riff on this space as a whole. Sound good?
Sounds great, Aaron. Thanks for having me here today. So I'll give you a little bit of background. So about myself first, David Lucatch. I'm the CEO of Liquid Avatar Technologies, Inc., and we're a company that really focuses on, at our core, digital identity. And so you think of the metaverse and digital identity. Well, our position is that the internet's sort of been broken for the last 25 years, and digital identity sort of puts a normality back into it that most businesses and educational institutes and governments have always wanted. And using the blockchain, we can achieve that. But my career goes back now almost 40 years, where I started in university, my own design, marketing, and print company, and grew that quite large, and moved into the internet space in the early mid 90s. And then started developing some very high-end technology, including payment technology, language translation services, all the things that would support the infrastructure of doing business on the internet. And now with digital identity, avatars, digital credentials, NFTs, and the metaverse, we're sort of moving into that realm and have been for the last 4 or 5 years.
Well, that's awesome. I do want to dig into, digital identity as a whole, because I think it's one of those things that's kind of glossed over, right? Mm-hmm. As a whole, with the metaverse, everybody's thinking, okay, these VR goggles and headsets, and that's where I think a lot of people struggle. It's like, nobody wants to wear one of those for 1 or 2 hours. And so as we kind of go through the conversation today, would love to touch on that digital identity piece, obviously mixed reality, blended reality along the way. And so where do you think we should start? I mean, you're having these conversations with brands every day. What's the best place to start?
Well, brands are talking to us about, how do I get started? What do I do? And I think this is really a transition point from, sort of catalog-based, web sales or e-commerce and opportunities into dynamic opportunities that allow 3D walkthroughs, augmented reality, all kinds of new techniques and technologies that allow the user, because Web 3.0 is now about the user. It's about the user and how they will engage. And so I think where you need to step into this opportunity is by saying, we want to be an early adopter. We saw that in Web 1.0, everybody waited. In 2.0, with social media, everybody got in over time, but then raced. Now with Web 3.0, I think it's important that brands, put toes in the water as soon as possible, because you can move from sort of a regular website into a 3D blended reality website very quickly and do some really unique opportunities. And we've done that, as Aaron, you've seen with the Oasis Digital Gallery. And at the same time, by supporting it with digital identity opportunities, it doesn't mean that you'll know more about the customer. It just means that you have a high level of assurance that those people that you're engaging with are real persons and not fake bots or hacks.
No, I think that, during one of our conversations when we were talking about that Oasis digitalgallery.com it was kind of that bridging moment for me around, if you look at web pages for the past 20 years, they've been pretty static, right? It's one dimensional. There's items on there, maybe color variations. And if you want to compare, maybe you're going to a page where you click compare and it gives you a 2D, static image. And then watching the kids play Roblox or, they're not into Fortnite, but Minecraft, right? Why aren't stores more engaging like that? Why can't I look and scroll through a store where instead of having to click on a shirt and then back out and see the V-neck and then back out and see the button up, why can't they all be displayed there and I click on them and I can literally walk through a store? And that's where I think it's this mixed or blended realities, like step one. How hard is that to get to? Because it doesn't seem like it's that hard.
No, we don't make it that difficult. We're working with all kinds of brands and not making it that difficult. And I'll take it one step further. You can actually not only do that, where you can take a static store and make it dynamic and engaging and very similar to what you do in the real world, but then you could click on an item. Let's say it's a poster or display or a bookshelf or something that is physical. And you could take that into your phone on an augmented reality basis and place that in your room. So these experiences now exist. I'm sure we'll talk about other opportunities as we get and talk about the metaverse today. But for durable goods, CPGs, furniture, clothing, there are so many opportunities to go beyond sort of the clicks and create unique experiences very cost effectively that will differentiate your brand from your competitors' brands very quickly, because it'll be an engaged experience.
I mean, it's also that segue as well, right? To, purchasing something in the metaverse and completely realize, well, there's not like one metaverse, right? There'll be multiple metaverses and maybe there's multiple universes that combine into the metaverse, however people want to explain, right? So, Facebook or Meta will have their own, Amazon will have their own, maybe the San Diego Zoo has their own as a whole. But the ability to purchase an NFT, that's where a lot of people are asking right now is how do I get into the NFT space, right? In this idea of, what is an NFT? How do I best utilize it as a brand? And, some of those things that we're talking about was maybe it's not actually something, maybe it gives you access to something. I'd love to hear a little bit about that. But also the idea that they could purchase an NFT, but also have that actual item, the physical good, sent to their home at the same time.
Yeah. And so, I think the upcoming or Doctor Strange movie even talks about the multiverse. So we're talking about many metaverses. So at the end of the day, an NFT is what's called a non-fungible token. But if I can, and that means there's one of, and it's unique in design, and there's not two of, and I'm going to make it pretty simple. Think of an NFT as a baseball card, and each baseball card is uniquely different. And because they're uniquely different, and there is a certificate of authenticity saying that they're uniquely different, that's an NFT. We think of them as digital collectibles. Now, an NFT can do two things. It can provide visual value. It can have other values like video and other art opportunities, but it also can have utility. And when we think of utility, think of an NFT as a unique single key that belongs to an individual. So it could be a piece of art that is owned by you that gives you access to an event. So it could be a concert ticket that gives you access to an event. So we're doing something right now with our friend Ruth McCartney and Chef David Skinner, and we're launching something called Gourmet NFT, which is the ability for chefs and restaurateurs to do unique recipes. But you can't get a recipe on an NFT. It's impossible. So the NFT that you would purchase at Gourmet NFT would become a key that allows you access to a website, and it checks your digital wallet, your container that NFT is in, to make sure you have it before it lets you in the site. So there's lots of different ways to use NFTs, and it's not complicated. if a business takes or a brand takes a position that we're going to create premiums, promotions, collectibles, that falls really within the wheelhouse of what they're already doing, because they're probably producing hats and t-shirts and all that type of stuff. But let me be clear, because you said it about your kids. Everybody's doing this who's under the age of probably 20. They're already on Fortnite, they're on Minecraft, they're on Roblox. Your emerging market is there. They're spending money. And if you ask any parent of children that age, they're probably going to roll their eyes and say, if I have to give my kids any more money to spend on A, B, C, or D as an online universe, I'm just going to lose it. So we already know that people are spending money, they're spending time there, and that's only going to increase because we have seen online education, online services, online, pretty much online everything. Online work, online play. So I think NFTs can provide a strategy to build brand awareness and engagement, if you treat them right and you think of them as digital collectibles and keys to access unique opportunities.
So where does it fall within an organization, right? Because there's another whole path I want to go down, which is around digital identity.
Right.
But where are you seeing, is this falling underneath marketing? Is this falling underneath like web dev? Is it, therefore maybe a piece of IT? Is it falling underneath sales? It seems to me it's primarily marketing, but there's so many other, groups that are going to get pulled into this. Like, who's spearheading this, I guess, is what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, well, let's go back to Web 1.0, right? In Web 1.0, which was, that new frontier, marketing a part of it, but they just didn't know what to do with it. I think we're back to sort of that mentality where if you think about NFTs, that's, and you think of them as digital collectibles, and you think of them as premiums, promotions, prizes, and products in that realm, then generally it falls into marketing. When you think about the metaverse, that's going to be potentially web dev and e-commerce and a whole bunch of other people. But I think what's starting to happen at major brands is they're forming these collaborative groups to talk about this, and endorsed by the executive suite, to say, okay, well, we need to do this. Instead of trying to do it on a silo basis, let's get a whole bunch of people in a room and talk to people. And we've been doing more and more of those, where we're talking to not only organizations, but we're talking to sovereign nations. We're actually talking to smaller sovereign nations who want to embrace this opportunity of the metaverse, of digital identity, of NFTs at an early stage, because a lot of their national income or national GDP is based on travel and tourism. So it makes sense. So it's not just for educational institutes or governments or brands like a division of a government, but it is for an entire nation as well.
Wow. No, I think we're kind of getting into it. It will be ubiquitous at some point in time.
Yep.
I'm not saying that everybody, again, we're going to be walking around nonstop with AR, VR goggles. I don't think we're there for quite a while, but this idea of just a different way of looking and interacting on a daily basis, whether it's a game or a business or shopping or government affairs, banking, like healthcare. Like, are you seeing it going into all these different sectors? I think like applicability right now, like, is there any one of these divisions are further out ahead, or should everybody literally have this in their, on their roadmap right now?
I think everybody needs to have it on the roadmap. If your company has web presence and it has potentially some kind of transactionability, if it has social media, then you should be thinking about this today. And as I said, we're seeing all types of organizations from education to government. We're working with colleges and universities, and we're working with governments. We're working with e-commerce companies, consumer brands. So we're seeing the gambit of opportunities that are coming our way based on the fact that no one wants to be left behind. And, I challenge anyone to throw an idea across the table that we can't at least respond intelligently on the basis that this could fit inside mixed reality metaverse. But Aaron, I will also say that, cars are now starting to have a heads up display. So, and have for the last few years. We're sort of looking at, it may not be goggles, but it may be, some type of glasses or enhanced visual opportunity. We're working on different products that will give, and with partners that'll give that opportunity. So there's going to be unique technologies and opportunities coming our way as well.
That's why I just watched the movie Free Guy. He puts on the glasses and everything like pops up and it transforms the entire city.
Exactly.
So the digital identity side, I mean, that was one of the early conversations we had that was really intriguing to me, was tying it all together on the back end, right? Where I can see us all literally having a digital identity, whether or not we have an avatar or multiple avatars, one for each place that we participate in.
Right.
But it seems like that digital identity, encrypted, then, it can have my health information, right? So I go into a virtual doctor's appointment, right? Or I go into a bank, like it's all tied in. Where are we at as far as like a single point digital identity that houses everything?
Well, I think we're there. We've been focused the last 4 years primarily on where we can go with digital identity. And we're at a point now where, now let's take a step back. Digital identity doesn't mean that anybody knows more about you or less about you. It means the ability for an individual to control that identity in a digital format, not electronic, but digital, with some type of credential that says, I am who I say I am, and I can prove it digitally. So there's a digital root of trust. In the real world, we have, roots of trust based on familiarity. I know you, therefore I've seen you, I know who you are, therefore I can trust you. But digitally or online, that's a little more difficult. So using blockchain, organizations like ourselves and a number of other major organizations have put together an interoperable platforms that allow everybody to work in a single environment. So governments are adopting that now, and we've created solutions that allow both a holder being you or myself, Aaron, that holds that credential, an issuer like a government to issue a credential, and a institution, let's say like an airline or a restaurant or a workplace, to be able to verify that, or a merchant to be able to verify that. And when you think about that economically, it has massive value. I think the numbers for credit card and financial fraud globally are about $30 billion a year, with about 9 billion in North America. Think about all the online transactions that wouldn't go awry if you could just prove that the person who owns that card is using it. And two-factor authentication or verification by sending me a text doesn't always work. But if you had to verify biometrically, I had to show my face to my phone saying, yes, I want to purchase, that patio set. That would give a high level of assurance that the transaction is going through properly and with the right people on board.
Yeah, and I think that's it. It's the purchase point where, I mean, it's beneficial, not only for, the brand, right, who's trying to do the transaction, right, but also the person, right? Like, I don't know, you have these data leaks all the time where your credit card gets stolen or your password has been, compromised, and you have to go, and we all have 500 passwords now to log into every single different site.
Yeah.
Have one, I don't know. It seems a lot better to me across the board. Are there other topics that come up like routinely with you that, that are kind of on the cutting edge?
Well, yeah. I mean, we're talking about passwords. We have a system now that can replace passwords. We have systems that allow you access into games or allow you to verify your age. Think about age restriction. If we think about the evolving privacy legislation that is going on around the world, and in the U.S., it's led by California with the California Consumer Protection Act. If you think about that in GDPR in Europe and PIPEDA in Canada, and there's so many different Consumer Rights Act, and I think it's in Australia. But if you think about all of that, did you learn to drive so that you could buy alcohol at a store? The answer is no. And so think about the fact that why does a clerk need to know where I live for me to buy a bottle of liquor? Why do they need to know the color of my eyes, my driver's license, and how tall I am? That information is outside the realm of what's needed to make that decision. So digital identity and age verification using digital identity, we've already proven it, and we're working on contracts for this, that allows a person who is wanting to buy a restricted product, whether it's a lottery ticket, a package of cigarettes, a vaping product, cannabis, alcoholic beverages, it requires them to use a biometric and a digital credential, just like they use a financial card product, to prove that they are of age. It tells the clerk on the other side that they are green and good to go, or they're red and not good to go, and verifies them quickly, effectively, without ever passing any personally identifiable information over to the clerk. Now that can be extended into any situation where I'm asked to prove who I am, and I only want to limit the information that goes across. So digital identity really is the next stage in giving me as the consumer control over my personal information and sharing what I want, when I want, and with whom I want.
No, I love it. It is literally the next level, right, of what's going on. And we think about it from the it's like an offshoot of what the metaverse is driving, right? It is the requirements around the metaverse and have it be trusted, right, on both sides, and everything that goes along with it. These are the things that need to be put in place. And digital identity, in just in my mind, is one of those top things as a whole. When we're looking like what should brands be thinking about in the next 6, 9, 12 months? How should they be planning for this? And what is step one? Is step one just, an additional link on their website that takes them to, a virtual type, I say virtual, right? Augmented reality, virtual reality, 3D walkthrough, whatever it might be. Is it as simple as that? And then transacting off from that platform? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, I'd like to say shamelessly, the first thing they should do is give us a call. Only because we'd be happy to speak with them and talk about this. But I think it really is start a conversation. Brands need to be and all organizations need to be talking about this. So I think that's, for starters, that's the first thing they need to do is be aware of the fact that young people are doing this already and they don't want to play catch up. So I think that's number one. Number two is they've got to figure out what is their objective. If I'm a restaurant, my objective would be to maybe get somebody to buy something digitally. Let's say walk into a virtual pizza shop, make a pizza, have my avatar enjoying making that pizza, have a pizza game, a pizza experience, and then allow me to collect that digital pizza as an NFT potentially, but also know that I can have that pizza delivered to my home so that I'm completing a complete cycle for the business. It might be, does my avatar want to wear that shirt? And if they do, can I order that shirt for myself as well in the real world? Excuse me. My apologies. But at the end of the day, I think it's all about talking, setting the objectives, and then doing something, making a decision, doing something. Do you want to do a 3D website? Do you want to do augmented reality? Do you want a small metaverse experience? What are the things that are going to give you those small wins? Create an NFT. What are those small wins that are going to give you the confidence to expand that opportunity?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. Just do something, right? The only wrong thing to do here is to do nothing at all.
Exactly.
Even if it's, in a lot of brands I'm talking to, my background, I'm a chemist, and I spent a ton of, the first 6 years of my career, doing, making drugs for phase 1 and 2 clinical trials. And that was all about over and over again, reiterating and testing. But the other part of it was R&D, right? And this idea that I think brands need to embrace, because technology is changing so quickly that you need to have R&D from the product side. You also need to have R&D like budget set aside for this ever changing marketing landscape, because reality for marketers, it's gotten incredibly complicated over the last 2 years. It's been complicated for a while, but all of a sudden when everything goes digital and then cookies are going away, iOS 14.5 updates, and now Web3 and, you know, the metaverse, and how are you going to transact? What's brand awareness is going to look like? Marketers need to be able to have a portion of the budget that they can just play with to understand new technology, new opportunity that's out there. And then just know that it's potentially a sunk cost, but without doing that, you're never going to get that blockbuster that hits at the end. And so, no, I completely agree. Just do something, right?
Something, you know, making no decision is a decision. But again, I go back to that Web 1.0, 2.0, and now 3.0. In Web 1.0, everyone did nothing, and then they relied upon, anyone to help them. Web 2.0, they were a little more strategic. Web 3.0 is going to require a lot more strategy, but the benefits, Aaron, are that you are potentially going to know that everyone in your ecosphere is a real person. That means there's no breakage or spillage in your marketing spend. So your marketing spend will be that much more efficient, because the idea is to create symbiotic relationships between yourself and your constituents, not where everyone benefits, because I'm in control of my own content as a consumer. And so if I can create new and innovative ways to engage that consumer, I'm going to create new brand equity and engagement that's never been seen before.
I love it. No, it's just awesome. And then I think that's another whole podcast that we would jump into. How many fake users are there on any platform, right? And from a marketer, if you can actually tell that this is an actual and a real person and the audiences aren't inflated, anyways, it'll be another fun podcast for sure. Sure. Well, David, thanks so much for your time today. Thanks for being willing to jump on. From our side, just love the partnership, and your willingness to share the insights, what you guys are doing in this space. Again, David Lucatch from Liquid Avatar Technologies. You can probably just find him on the website, reach out to him on LinkedIn. It's just a fantastic resource for a ton of brands that are out there. And with that, we're going to wrap this one up. Again, I'm Aaron Conant. Thanks for joining us, and look forward to continuing our digital journey together. Everybody have a fantastic day. Thanks again. Thanks, David.
Thank you.